Okay, so we're going to be vacuum forming today. If you saw my last video, I built the vacuum forming machine. Today I have the heating element that I finished putting together for this thicker plastic yesterday. So let me show you the plastic I'm using. I have this 24 by 24 inch polystyrene, okay? And it's 3/32 thick, so it's pretty thick for home vacuum forming. Most people use like a 1/16. So that's why I needed extra heat in order to get this done. So I just did is I stapled one of those sheets to a wooden frame like this, so we can go on to the heating element. So let me bring you over to that thing right down here. I used 2 patio heaters to get enough heat right there in this little frame box. Now obviously wood is not the best thing to use for it for obvious reasons. However, this is really just a test. Eventually I'm going to rebuild it. You know, the dimensions work well, so I'll rebuild it in metal. But for just doing 1 or 2 quick pulls, it holds up just fine. So let me put this right on top. Okay, I'll turn on the heating elements. Now it does take, you know, a couple minutes to really heat up to where it's sagging enough to where I can get the right pull. So while it's heating up, I'll show you the rest of it, okay? So this is the vacuum former that I showed you guys last time. I drilled the holes in the side to put the vacuum on. And I actually hooked up a second vacuum to make sure I get enough pull. And my buddy Doug recommended to put a screen down to help get a more even pull, okay? So let me show you what I've been up to with it. There we go, let me bring it back down here. So I did do a project a couple weeks ago where I was making some claws and a thinner plastic. So this is how that came out. It's kind of hard to see because it's clear and it's going to light up. Made a bunch of these gnarly claws that are going to be attached to a big glove. They're going to light up from the inside. So this was a thin plastic, so I was able to do it a couple weeks ago. But to make this huge shell footlight, I needed a thicker plastic, so that's why I had to wait for my second patio heater to come in. Now this I carved out of wood. If you follow my Instagram and Facebook page, you'll see how I made this. Okay, it's MDF boards stacked together and grinded down to be this shape. So that's my model. So once this is done heating up, it's still going, we'll do the first pull. So let me bring it over here, see how it's coming along. Okay. I don't know if you can tell, it's very slightly sagging. It's still pretty hard though, like a drum, but starting to get a little bit warped. Okay, it's looking good. It's coming along. Oh, while we're waiting, I'll show you the other ones that I did. Okay. Sorry, my studio's a complete mess right now. But here are, oh my gosh, 6 or 7 of them. So you saw the sheet of plastic that it was. And it gets wrapped around it, and look at that. Turned out really nice. They have a whole bunch of them. And what's cool is, cut out from the center of the sheet after it's sticking out. So it looks like that. I just saw around it. And the nice thing is, this won't go completely to waste because some of these edges are pretty flat still. So I can cut them down into smaller squares and use them in my small dental vacuum former that I showed you in the last video too. So it's not going to go completely to waste. So, and also on this mold, I put a little bit of baby powder on it so it releases a little bit easier. I'm not sure if it actually does anything, but it feels like it does. That's why it's all white and powdery, you can tell. It still is a little tough to get out. You let it cool down once it's wrapped around it. But I'm excited to use this for so many applications. In costume building and making armor, helmets, anything. it's having a vacuum former is a wonderful tool for any prop maker. So, and like I said, we're gonna be making a really, really nice one with Chaz over the summer. So I'll make sure I give you guys updates on that. And I'm excited about it. Let's see how that plastic's doing. Looks like it's about halfway there. I'll probably do a time lapse. See? Oh yeah, it's getting a bit bouncy here. Okay, I'm gonna switch lenses. There we go, we got a nice wide shot now. You can kind of see everything. Now it's almost ready. It's about, I'd say about 1 more minute or 2 until we can actually pull it and put it over the vacuum formed, or over our mold here. So I just want to make sure it's pretty centered, because the plastic will be softest in the center. It's a little bit more rigid on the edges. And what I actually did with this mold is I made it about 1/2 inch taller than it should be, so that way some of the webbing, which just kind of naturally happens with most of these vacuum form pieces, will just be cut off, the flashing. So, and actually I didn't really explain what this thing is. This is, so obviously it looks like a shell, okay? What it is it's a footlight. For Phantom of the Opera, a local high school is doing it, Clarence High School. And what they have are these footlights that look like a shell on the edge of the stage. They go all the way along the edge of the stage. So there'll be a light bulb. So this acts as a flange to the bottom to be bolted down, and a light bulb in there with the light shining forward. So we're going to have the art students there, or some students in the theater program, that paint them and give them a nice, real nice look to it, like a gold rusted look. So it's going to look really nice. I think we're just about ready. Let's see. Oh yeah, we're really close. Let me rotate this so we get a little bit more even on the sides. Just a couple seconds. Okay. We'll time lapse it again. Here we go. A little tip that my buddy Chaz gave me is when you're vacuum forming, it should hang down about half the height of your mold. So this is about 4.5 inches. So I'm looking for it to sag about 2.25. So that's how I know it'll be ready to do the pull. Couple more quick tips for safety is you want to make sure you are in a well ventilated area when you do this. You never want to do this in an oven that you're going to be cooking in, which is why I had to make this little contraption. And right now I have my windows open, the fans are blowing, so it's a really well ventilated area. And we're ready. Here we go. Gun vacuum. So there it is, a pretty successful pull. I'm gonna let it cool down a little bit before I start to demold it. I do have to kind of slam it around a bit because it is pretty snug in there. There's a little bit of webbing. Probably could have let it heat up just a little bit longer because, again, it is a pretty thick plastic that I'm using. So now what I do is I make a line around where I'm gonna cut, and to do that I use a Sharpie. And I want to make sure it's a 1/2 inch up from the base. So I have this little piece of wood, and I measured that if I balance this on the wood, I get a nice even line all the way across. That's a 1/2 inch up, so that they'll all be exactly the same size when we go to cut them out. So there we go. There's that line drawn all the way around. Get a little closer up on that so you can see it. Looking good, huh? Okay. Alrighty. Now, again, this is just stapled, so actually I can get the frame off of it. That's the frame that I made. Got those brackets on the side to keep it strong. There we go. So now if I lift it up, I think it's gonna take the whole mold with it. And there it is in there. Okay. Now, right now it's almost completely cooled down. It's not hot at all, just a little bit warm. Again, I can salvage all that plastic, which is really, really nice. So, let me start prying it out. Now, since my mold is made out of wood too, I can be pretty, oh there it is, look at that. Came out nice and easy. I don't have to be that gentle with it. If it was plaster, it'd be a lot more fragile and I'd have to be careful demolding. And since I have to do like 15 of these, I wanted to make sure I had a nice strong mold. But, there it is. Okay, and for completeness, why don't I cut it out too? Don't worry, I'll time-lapse this for you. And there she is. So that's my vacuum forming project. Now, by no means is this the holy grail of vacuum forming, or DIY vacuum forming. If you want to learn how to make your own, there's a ton of YouTube videos. If you just Google DIY vacuum former, you'll get a ton of great ones. I kind of pulled different pieces from different ones and came up with this one. So if I did it again, I do things very differently. And like I said, this was just really to get through this one project. And I'm sure I'll use it for some other little projects between now and summer. But over the summer, we're going to be making a really, really nice one. So stay tuned for that as well.